Today we're going to talk about Nvidia and their upcoming earnings announcement. We'll go over not only what analysts are expecting out of this quarter from Nvidia, but also what the company themselves provided for outlook during last quarter's report. So if you enjoy the video, drop a like down below, and if you want to see more videos like this one, make sure to subscribe. Nvidia is a stock that has increased almost 90% so far year to date, and over the course of the last year alone, this stock has ran up over 200%. And the crazy part with all of this is the metrics behind the business are up even more than the stock price. And we can see some of that shown here. This is Nvidia's EPS over the course of the last 5 years. And in the most recent quarter, they put up an earnings of $4.92. When we compare that to a year ago, they put up only 57 cents of earnings. This is almost a 10x in their EPS numbers. The top line numbers haven't been as strong as their bottom line. However, they are still very, very impressive. In the most recent quarter, they put up a revenue of $22.1 billion compared to a year ago where they only put up $6.05 billion. This is a 265% gain year over year. So when we see these numbers increasing so rapidly in a very short period of time, it's justified that the stock price has shot up as well. However, the only question for me, as well as a lot of other investors, is will this continue into the future? And for this upcoming earnings announcement, which will occur on May 22nd, analysts are not expecting Nvidia to slow down at all. They have an EPS estimate of $5.56 with a revenue estimate of $24.47 billion. Personally, I like looking at Yahoo Finance a little bit more because they give you a range of estimates from a variety of analysts. We can see that there are 36 analysts covering this stock on Yahoo Finance. They have an average EPS estimate of $5.57 with a low estimate of $5.32 and a high estimate of $6.12. So a range anywhere from $5.32 all the way up to $6.12. When we compare this year over year, they reported 98 cents of earnings last year. So again, we are seeing a 5x increase in their EPS numbers over the course of the last year. And for the full year, analysts have an average EPS estimate of $24.96. This is almost a double up from a year prior where they put up $12.96. And for top line revenue numbers, Yahoo Finance analysts have an average estimate of $24.57 billion. That is a 277% increase year over year from $6.52 billion. And for the total year of 2025, they're expecting revenue to grow by 84.3%. For me, the biggest question around Nvidia is, are they going to be able to keep up this data center growth that we have seen over the course of the last year? Their current revenue is sitting at $18.4 billion from data centers alone. That's up 409% year over year from $3.6 billion a year prior. And data centers is the largest section of their business, with gaming coming in at second, making up only $2.8 billion of their revenue, growing at about 56% year over year. Professional visualization only makes up $463 million of their revenue, and automotive only makes up $281 million of their revenue, and that's actually down 4% year over year. So of Nvidia's $22.1 billion that they reported for top line revenue last quarter, 18.4 of that was from data centers alone. And ultimately what that means is if we were to see a very significant slowdown in the economy, a lot of these large tech companies that are investing heavily into AI right now may look to pull back on some of those investments, and this would hit Nvidia's revenue numbers in a very significant way because a lot of their revenue is coming from these other large tech companies that are building out data centers, buying Nvidia's chips, and looking to expand their AI capabilities. But any sort of pullback, especially economic slowdown that would affect these larger companies, could have a massive effect on the core business of Nvidia, which is data centers. So personally, I don't think Nvidia is going to report a weak quarter in this upcoming earnings. However, I did see some very interesting data that economic slowdown tends to lag behind increasing interest rates by about 14 months. And what this actually means is that sometime around September through the end of the year, we could actually see the economy economy start feeling the effects of the increased interest rates that we have seen over the course of the last year and a half. So personally, I'm not expecting Nvidia to report any sort of slowdown in this upcoming earnings report, and the company isn't expecting any slowdown either. They provided guidance last quarter of a revenue of $24.0 billion. This is actually about $500 million less than what any analysts are expecting the company to report. So in the short term, I don't think Nvidia will have much trouble. However, what's more interesting is what will happen over the next 2 to 5 years, because right now Nvidia is sitting at a forward P ratio of a 37.31, which compared to a lot of other large tech companies is a very fair valuation, especially considering the amount of growth that Nvidia potentially has in front of it. However, analysts have their EPS increasing by 100% this year and then 30% next year. So that's what's being baked into this forward P ratio. However, if we were to see any sort of slowdown in the economy over the course of the next 1 to 2 years and Nvidia's EPS numbers to drop out, we could actually see them trading closer to their trailing P ratio, which is much higher at a 75.77. In my opinion, Nvidia reminds me a little bit of Tesla in 2021. We saw the stock run up a few 100% in a very short period of time. However, over the course of the next 3 years, the stock basically did nothing and has even traded down almost 40%. And keep in mind that over this 3-year time period for Tesla, they have well over doubled their revenue. In 2021, they were bringing in around $36 billion of revenue, and that has since grown all the way up to $96.7 billion. And in terms of EPS numbers, Tesla in 2021 was bringing in 33 cents of trailing 12-month EPS. This has since gone up all the way to $4.30, over a 10x on their EPS numbers, and still the stock has actually traded down over the course of the last 3 years. So obviously I have no clue what's going to happen in the next 2 to 5 years. Nvidia could shoot up another 1000% for all I know. However, when I see a stock that has run up this much in a very short period of time, I tend to avoid it because oftentimes there's a lot of hype that goes into this big of a run up. We saw that with Tesla. There was a huge hype cycle around electric vehicles, and yes, electric vehicles gained a lot of popularity over the past 3 to 5 years. However, the stock ran up above that popularity, and thus there was room for it to pull back as demand and other concerns kind of crept in. And I think that's something similar that we could see here with Nvidia. We've seen a very large hype cycle around AI, and if we see any faltering of demand, that could lead to a very significant drop in Nvidia's stock price. But keep in mind, do not buy a company just because some random guy on YouTube talked about it. Make sure you are doing your own research and looking into companies that meet your risk tolerance as well as your time horizon. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, drop a like down below. And if you want to see more videos like this one, make sure to subscribe. And as always, guys, have a wonderful rest of your day. And for the joke of the day, why did the Scarecrow win an award? Check the comments down below for the answer. Thanks for watching.